This is music, and this is Collecting in Style. First of all, if you can hear a cat purring, that's because there's a cat right here purring, having a chill time. And anyway, so I figured it would be kind of fun to sort of do an end of year series focusing on collecting itself rather than on the sort of the items in your collection, or I guess in my collection, or the music that's on those items. So I figured, why not talk a bit about the act, I guess, or the activity of collecting music media itself. A lot of people like to do end of year lists, albums of the year, but as some of you know, I've not really focused on acquiring new releases this year. I think maybe I'll end up maybe with 7 or something, and half of these will probably be like EPs. So I can't even make an end of year list like that. Yeah, I guess I can. They all come in, for the albums in a shared first place. Iron Maiden Senjutsu, Smith and Cutson, Consecrations EP, and Oiran by Nemophila. And the rest I haven't heard yet. So there we go. That's my end of year list. Anyways, I would like to do an end of year series on collecting music media, and it's inspired by the fact that in the VC, it's not very normative. Typically, you will find kind of like other kind of collection communities. They're very normative. They have like standards, and this is the way you should do it. And if you don't do it like this, you suck, blah, blah, blah. And I don't really see this in the vinyl community. There are so many different styles of collecting. There are so many different things you can focus on. You have different media, different storage options, and listening patterns, and so on and so forth. And it seems like everybody is really respectful about other people's ways of doing it, and I really like that. But it's also really inspirational. So these videos are inspired by that fact. I think I've actually only seen one example of a really sarcastic comment having to do with the shrink wrap and hype stickers, and it was a really sarcastic comment on a video by a young lady that collects vinyls. So I suspect it might actually have to do with sexism and not just collecting elitism. But that's that's another interesting issue, but not an issue for me to discuss right here. In this first video, I want to discuss or talk about completionism. I've noticed that many collectors are completionists in the sense that they don't just want like a couple of releases by an artist. They want all the releases by the artist. And then some people are like just all the studio albums, and other people are like everything. 12-inch singles, 7-inch singles, EPs, live albums, everything, right? So there seem to be different degrees of completionism. And this was actually, it was a video by the Female Metal Fan that made me think of it, in which he kind of discussed whether he should go completionist on a bunch of thrash metal artists. And kind of, he made a video sort of asking, why don't I have everything by Annihilator, for example? I think that was one of them, on vinyl. And that made me think about my own kind of approach to this. And I sort of thought to myself, am I a completionist? And the answer was no, definitely not a completionist. I think sort of the completionist approach, I think it's very exciting, to be sure. It's very exciting because because then you're sort of like on the lookout for this rare release by this artist, and so on and so forth, and that sort of leads to the concept of a grail, which I will mention or discuss later on in this video too. So it's really exciting. I can actually see why people do it, but I realized that in my own collection is actually full of releases by artists where I have a couple of releases. Rarely do I have all of them. So I'm certainly not a completionist. I think maybe I'm a shall we say, a selective completionist, because there's like a handful of artists where I have sort of decided I want all studio albums by these artists on vinyl. And then there are other artists where I've decided, I would like to have all of their releases, but it's fine if I have them on CD or cassette, which I've recently started collecting on cassette tape, or if I have some of them on CD and some of them on vinyl, and where it's kind of like goes across different media. But there are some artists, for example, and these are kind of like my I think top tier favorite bands. So with Iron Maiden, I'm a studio album completionist, in the sense that I would like to have all their albums on vinyl. Doesn't have to be OGs. I'm fine with reissues, and I have pretty much everything. I'm still waiting for the Book of Souls and Power Slave reissues that I've ordered, that or I guess pre-ordered, so they should hopefully. You never know with the vinyl production business these days, but hopefully they should be in next year at some point. So Death also, I would like to have everything by Death on vinyl. I have all the reissues that came out recently, and then I'm kind of sitting on Symbolic, hoping that it'll be reissued. If not, I'm probably gonna have to see if I can find an original pressing somewhere. I have it on CD, so I'm actually I have it, and actually that was the very first Death item I ever got. That was that one CD, so I'm never gonna get rid of that one. But so an AC/DC, and I mean they have lots of releases, so I'm not in a hurry. So there's some artists where I'm a completionist, where I would like to have everything by them, and but I would, to be honest, the majority of my collection, and this probably means that to some people that's not even collecting, but the majority of my collection is actually just like selected releases, and I'm talking about my vinyl collection. You see some of that here, selected releases by artists, like releases that I like, or that I'm sort of intrigued about, and that I would like to have on vinyl if they're not too expensive, right? And that's why you sometimes hear me say, and that's all I need on vinyl by Europe, for example. And then you get a reaction like Metal Retro Blaze said, well, I think you need more Europe, and then she recommended 2 Europe albums. And I think that's really cool, right? So you get recommendations like that. So I decided if I find copies of them in the wild or something, I will pick them up. But that's why you hear me say that's all I need on vinyl by this artist. Either it's because that's actually all I need, I feel, by the artist, or I have, everything else on other formats, but I would like to have this album on vinyl, for example. So that's sort of the story behind that's all I need on vinyl by this band. So that doesn't mean I don't like the artist or whatever, but it means that it's within what I have what I aim for having in my vinyl collection. Celtic Frost, by the way, is another artist where I'm almost a completionist. I still haven't decided whether I want Monotheist on vinyl or not. I have it on CD. I have everything else on vinyl. I have all the sort of reissues that came out, and to make a Therion was a bit of a hassle to get my hands on that. That was difficult. there are lots of copies out there, but they were all used and they were really expensive. So I was actually happy to find a relatively fairly priced copy of it in a British record store online, and it was turned out it had a corner bend. They did actually contact me and say that, and they said we'll refund everything and just cancel the order, or we can give you a partial refund. And yeah, and I said, well, just give me the partial refund, please. That's fine. And you know, the damage is hardly visible, right? So to the outer sleeve. But anyway, so I have all of those, and then I have Cold Lake and an OG. I haven't decided whether I want Monotheist yet on vinyl. But so in my collecting, I'm clearly not a completionist. I'm a sort of selective completionist. I have some things I want on vinyl and other things that I feel I'm happy with on CD, or I feel like, you know, maybe I don't need this at all. Maybe I have it on in iTunes, or you know, I can stream it and check it out and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I often say that's all I need on vinyl by this and that artist. That's because of my selective kind of collection. And I know some people say that's not collecting, because collecting is amassing everything by one artist. That would be, or amassing everything by, you know, someone or every version of some kind of item. That would be the approach in a lot of other collection communities, but not so much in the vinyl community, which I think is great. Now, the Grail is a related concept, and I have not really had a Grail. I think maybe the closest thing to a Grail would be to make a Therion, actually. And I'm not quite sure I've really understood what a Grail is fully. I know a Grail is an item that an individual collector would really like to get their hands on. But the details, I'm not sure. Does it have to be like a Grail because it's rare? There are not that many versions out there, or is it because it's really expensive? So there might be a lot of versions of it or copies of it out there, but it's really expensive. So finding a fairly priced copy of it is what makes it a Grail. Or is the Grail... I know that's not the case. The Grail is not like some sort of, at least not in the metal collection community. It's not some sort of universally held Grail that everybody is looking for, right? Like there's some kind of gold standard. The concept of a Grail seems to be very individual to collectors. But I think maybe the Grail, there are more Grails, I think, in a sort of like a completionist-based collection, because if you want everything by an artist, there will be things that are difficult to get your hands on, but you have to get your hands on them, right? Because you're a completionist. So I think that's really cool, because that often makes for exciting, you know, collecting stories. Like I saw it on Discogs and it was in my inbox, but I sat on it for too long and somebody else nabbed it up before me, or you know, I was just in the wild and I saw this personal Grail of mine and it was really cheap and perfect condition. So I mean, I think that's really cool. Personally, I don't think I've had Grails. Like I said, the closest thing is probably to make a Therion, and maybe that did count as a Grail. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys can tell me. But so that was the first sort of discussion of collecting styles, completionism. I personally, I'm not a completionist. I think maybe a selective completionist, but I know that there are lots of people out there that are completionists, and I think that it's really cool. It's really impressive, actually, to see, you know, again, people like collecting like all 7-inch singles by Aerosmith, for example, or, you know, completionists that have found one of their Grails and they're really excited about it. I think it's great. So anyways, that was the first collecting in style video. Thanks for watching.